Hello, welcome to Upgrading ArcGIS Enterprise. I'm Cameron Croker and my co-presenter is Nicole Murphy. And today we'll be talking about upgrading ArcGIS Enterprise products. On the agenda today, we will start off by talking about some common terms related to upgrades that we'll be using throughout the discussion, as well as what upgrades are, why you should upgrade, the supported versions to upgrade from and to, some things to consider before upgrading, and then the recommended order of the upgrades. And then we'll talk about the upgrade process for each individual component, starting off with the ArcGIS Web Adapter, moving to the Portal for ArcGIS, ArcGIS Server, ArcGIS Datastore. And then once we have discussed the upgrade process, we'll also talk about some validation checks that can be performed after the upgrade is complete to ensure that your upgrade was successful. And then we'll conclude with the ArcGIS Enterprise Builder upgrade experience, as well with a demonstration. So some common definitions. So when we refer to an in-place upgrade, this is how the setup is ran. In this scenario, the setup is for the new version is installed on top of the existing software. So this means you don't need to uninstall the previous version prior to installing the new version. We then also have a uninstall and install upgrade, and this is also how refers to how the setup is ran. However, in this scenario, you would first uninstall the previous version prior to installing the new version, and this also sometimes is referred to as an out-of-place upgrade. We then also have a one-click, and this refers to what needs to be done after installing the new version. This means that you don't have to fill out any forms. You can just simply click one button to complete the upgrade of the software. And then we have a post-upgrade, and this operation is something that needs to be done after the upgrade is complete. And the upgrade is complete after the setup is ran and the final continue upgrade button has been clicked. A direct upgrade, this is when you upgrade from your current version to another without having to go to an intermediate version first. So this would be an example of, say, you're upgrading from 10.3 directly to 10.8. And then we also have an indirect upgrade, and this is where you would first upgrade to an intermediate version of the software before upgrading to the current release. So this example would be, say you're at 10.2 and you want to upgrade to 10.8, you would first upgrade from 10.2 to 10.3, and then from 10.3 to 10.8. So what are upgrades? Well, upgrades are the way of any existing version of the software to be moved to a newer version or current release of the software. And the upgrade will maintain content, security, configurations, users and groups, and many other customizations. However, just note that this excludes the config.js file in Portal. And so you do want to just, if you have made changes to this file, just make a backup of this. And then upgrades do not just apply to ArcGIS Enterprise base deployment, but they also apply to other server roles such as GeoEvent, GeoAnalytics, Notebook Server, as well as apps such as Workforce or Insights. Why should you upgrade? Well, one reason would be to access new features, functionality, apps, products, get the latest and greatest. And we also have a doc in the enterprise documentation and the web help that describes what's new, and it will give you all the details of what's new in that current release. Another reason you'd want to upgrade is to take advantage of performance enhancements. With each release, we try to make each release more performant, and then also to stay within the product lifecycle with the short-term and long-term life cycles. So it would be good to stay within those. And then receive security updates and bug fixes. Let's discuss a little bit about the supported versions. So this table here just kind of shows from what release you're at to what release you want to upgrade to. And 10.7.x is the last series that will support upgrading from 10.2. And so This table right here illustrates that. So before you upgrade, there's some things that we recommend doing beforehand so that you're prepared for the upgrade, and this will help you be most successful. And number one thing I would say is read the documentation. We have some extensive web help regarding upgrades, and there's some great literature on the web for that. That way you're prepared and you know the experience or what you're getting yourself into for each component that you're upgrading. And then next, download all of your installation setups from the Esri, as well as your ArcGIS server and portal license files. Just note that at 10.7 and above, the license file is a JSON file. And then if you use any applications like Workforce, Collector, Insights, we recommend checking the version compatibility with the ArcGIS Enterprise that you're wanting to upgrade to. This is because some applications are on a different release cycle and are immediately supported on the latest release of ArcGIS Enterprise. And so you could refer to our web help, the documentation to determine the compatibility. And then I would say this is probably the most important step to take before performing an upgrade, and that would be to take a backup or multiple backups. If you're using a version of ArcGIS Enterprise that includes the WebGISDR tool, this is a great tool to use for backing up your portal, your ArcGIS server, and your Datastore content. And then each component also has their own backup method that you could also use. For example, ArcGIS server has its own backup utility as well as the ArcGIS Datastore, and so you can make individual backups of each component. And then another option is to take a backup of the actual content or config stores. So you'd want to copy the ArcGIS portal folder, ArcGIS server, and then ArcGIS Datastore. I would like to note, though, with this, it's recommended to stop the portal service or ArcGIS server service or Datastore service before making a backup of those directories. That way you're not copying any locked files. And then perhaps another option would be to, if you're using virtualized environments, to take snapshots of all of the environments. And so at least one of these backups, if not all, if possible. And then do not unfederate. This is, the upgrade will maintain your federated settings, and so if you actually unfederate before you upgrade, it will break it. And so you don't have to worry about unfederating. Let's talk about the recommended order of upgrades. We first recommend upgrading your portal for ArcGIS, and then once the portal has been upgraded, upgrade the web adapter used with portal. And then once web adapter is upgraded, and if you have web styles installed at, say, 10.7.1, it would be recommended to upgrade your web styles. And then once that's complete, move on to your ArcGIS server and upgrade that. Now, if you have a multi-node server site, it'd be recommended to upgrade one server at a time. And then once your ArcGIS server has been upgraded, you're going to want to upgrade your web adapter and configure it with your ArcGIS server site. And then upgrade your ArcGIS Datastore. And once that's complete, that's when you can upgrade your other server roles that you may have federated with your enterprise portal, such as GeoEvent server, GeoAnalytics, image, notebook server. And just to note here, you do not need to upgrade through all the releases. So if you are at 10.3, you can do a direct upgrade to 10.8. You don't have to upgrade from 10.3 to 10.3.1 and then to 10.4 and then 10.4.1. You can just upgrade directly to the latest release. Let's talk about upgrading the ArcGIS Web Adapter experience. It's a little bit different than the other components. What we recommend is first taking note of your web adapter context or the name of your web adapter. This is because you would have to uninstall the previous version first. And this could be found at a couple different places. If you're on Windows, it could be found in the Programs, Features, Uninstall list. It can also be found in your ArcGIS Server Admin API or your Portal ArcGIS Portal Admin API. And so make note, and then you're going to uninstall the web adapter. And once that's done, you're going to install the version of the web adapter you're upgrading to, and ensure that when you install it, you name it the same as it was previously, and then configure it with your portal or ArcGIS server. And then just a note here, starting at 10.8, there's a new IIS requirement for WebSocket protocol, and this is used for notebook server. And so you may just get a prompt saying, if this feature isn't installed, it may prompt you saying, would you like to install it? And you can just click OK, and it'll install it for you. Now I'll hand it over to Nicole.
Okay, so I'm going to talk first through some specifics with upgrading Portal for ArcGIS. So the first thing I want to note is that depending on what version you're upgrading to will depend on what you see after the setup is run. So I have a couple different images here on this slide, so you should see one of these available. Starting at 10.7, if your content is on a file system, you do not need to run a manual reindex, but if you're upgrading to a version that is not 10.7 or higher, you need to run a full reindex. So why do you need to do this? This is required to ensure that all new and existing content is searchable. This also ensures that the enterprise portal knows where to find the content. So you can find the indexer in your portal admin directory under System Indexer. And so let's take a quick look at what this looks like. So after you upgrade, if you look at your index status, you might see something like this. You'll see red, your counts in the store and count in the index are out of sync. So what you want to do is go into a reindex from the mode. You're going to select full and you're going to run the reindex. Once it's done, it will bring you back to this main page, but then you just want to check your index status to ensure that it's all in sync. So everything should come up. You shouldn't see any more red. The counts that are in your store versus the counts that are in your index should match. Living Atlas. If you have configured Living Atlas Premium or subscriber content, depending on the version you're upgrading to, you may be required to upgrade the living content after the upgrade is complete. So at 10.7, the Living Atlas content is upgraded during the post-upgrade operation, but prior to 10.7, you needed to go into your settings, into the Living Atlas tab, and upgrade it there. At 10.6.1, we made kind of a big change where only the ArcGIS data store is supported as the managed database for your hosting server. The hosting server can no longer be an enterprise geodatabase for this purpose. This does not mean that you cannot use enterprise geodatabases. By all means, you can. They just cannot be the managed database for your hosting server. Prior to 10.7, when you upgraded Portal, at the end of the setup, you were presented with the software authorization wizard. At this point, you would have provided the license file from my Esri. So this may have been a PRVC file, it may have been an ECP. At 10.7, we've changed that. So let's first take a quick peek at how licensing has changed over the releases. So from the version 10.2 through to 10.4.1, everyone in your portal was considered a member. Then at 10.5, we changed this so you had level 1 and level 2 users in your portal, and this lasted until 10.6.1. At 10.7, we changed to user types. So I'm going to get more into what user types mean here in a minute. So first, what happens when you upgrade from a version that your users are members to a version that's levels? So say going from 10.2 to 10.5, all of your members now become level 2 just for compatibility. So at 10.7 with the new JSON file, we just want to note that every API for Portal supports this. So whether you're going through the Home app, whether you're upgrading through the Portal Admin API, or you're upgrading from the command line utility, or you have your own scripts, all of these now require this JSON file. So let's talk about what happens with user types. So if you're upgrading from a version that's 10.2 through to 10.4.1, and you have a user type license file that just has a single user type compatible with level 2, say creator, all of your members are going to come over and be assigned a creator. If you have a license file that contains multiple compatible user types, say creator and GIS professional, all of your members are going to come over into what's called standard temporary user type, and I will talk a little more about that in a couple slides. So if you're sitting in a version between 10.5 and 10.6.1 and you're upgrading to 10.7 or beyond, say you have a license file that has one compatible user type with level 1 and one compatible user type with level 2, they will come over as that user type. So your level 1s might come over as a viewer and your level 2s would come over as a creator. If you have a license file that has multiple user types compatible with level 1 and multiple user types compatible with level 2, your level 1s are going to come over into what's called a light temporary user type, and your level 2s will come over into a standard temporary. If you have a license file that has one compatible user type with level 1 and multiple compatible user types with level 2, your level 1s will come over to that one user type of, say, viewer, but your level 2s are going to come over into standard temporary. So if we look at the vice versa of that, where we have multiple user types compatible with level 1 and one user type compatible with level 2, all of your level 1s are going to come over into this light temporary, and all of your level 2s will come over as, say, a creator. So what is this standard temporary and light temporary? So this was something that we designed because if you supply us multiple user types compatible with level 1 or level 2, we can't choose for you who should be assigned what user type. So we put them into these two categories so you can distinguish between who was level 1 and who was level 2, and you must reassign them out of this user type into a valid user type. As long as they are sitting as a standard temporary or a light temporary, unless they're an administrator in your portal, they cannot log in. So let's look a little bit at a highly available upgrade of portal. So prior to 10.6.1, you needed to unregister your standby. Starting at 10.6.1, you no longer needed to unregister the standby, but you had to run the continue portal upgrade on the primary environment. This caused a little bit of confusion. Which machine should I start the install on first? What if it causes a failover? I don't know who primary is. How do I figure out who primary is? So starting at 10.7, we changed it so that you no longer needed to be aware of who is primary or standby. This operation can be run on either machine. So you start the setup for 10.7, 10.7.1, or 10.8. You do the continue upgrade and the post-upgrade operation on whichever machine you happen to be on. Another important note for Portal is that starting at 10.8, we no longer support upgrades from 10.2x. So this includes 10.2, 10.2.1, and 10.2.2. So there's a couple different screens you might see if you try to do an in-place upgrade. You'll see this first message where the setup is blocking you from being able to do this. If you try to do an install upgrade and you click that continue portal upgrade button, you're going to see this error message. So what does this mean? This means that you would have to upgrade to an intermediate version of, say, 10.3 or higher, and then proceed to upgrade to 10.8. So now we're going to switch over and look at upgrading ArcGIS Server. Before 10.5, when you were upgrading the ArcGIS Server, after the installation, the server would be upgraded. It would be done and it would be ready to use. At 10.5 and beyond, we had to add a second step. So after the setup was complete, the browser opens and you see a page that directs you to continue server upgrade. Once this is complete, your server is upgraded and ready to use. If you have multiple federated servers with your portal, and those servers, they're all a minimum of 10.5, you can upgrade them at a later time. So your hosting server has to be the same version as your enterprise portal, but any federated server, say you just have a GIS server or an image server, those do not have to be at, say, 10.8, they just have to be a minimum of 10.5. So a couple important things to note is that starting at 10.7, you can no longer directly upgrade from 10.1. And then starting at 10.8, you can no longer directly upgrade from 10.2x. So if you're in either of these situations and you want to be at 10.8, you'll have to upgrade to an intermediate version of, say, 10.3, 10.4, and then upgrade to 10.8. If you have a multi-cluster site, so starting at 10.7 and all versions after, multiple server clusters within ArcGIS server sites are no longer supported. So what does this mean? If you are sitting in this situation, what happens? If you do not have the default cluster, this will be created. All the servers in the site will be moved into the default cluster. All services will be moved into the default cluster, and this includes the system and utility services. All services will be in a stopped state. System and utility services will be in their expected state. Services will need to be manually started. And so let's take a quick look at upgrading the ArcGIS data store. If you are running a highly available environment prior to 10.7, you're required to upgrade the primary data store before you can upgrade the standby. Starting at 10.7, you can upgrade from either primary or standby data stores. You just need to run the installation on all data stores. For relational and tile cache, this is your primary and standby. For spatiotemporal, this would be all of your big data store machines. And then once the setups are done, you just initiate the upgrade on one of them. Starting at 10.6, you can no longer perform an install upgrade of ArcGIS Data Store. You must do an in-place upgrade. To upgrade the spatiotemporal big data store, so you run the installation on each machine in the configuration, and then you run the configuration on many machines, on any machine in the configuration. The remaining machines are all upgraded automatically. At 10.8, you can now have multiple machines for your tile cache ArcGIS data store to store large amounts of 3D hosted scene layers. So after an upgrade, if you have a highly available tile cache data store, which basically means primary and standby, you will be moved into a 2-machine tile cache data store. There will be no distinction between primary and standby. In a future release, we are planning to have a configurable option so you can choose either primary standby mode or cluster depending on your needs. So big thing we did at 10.8, we heard you, group managed service accounts we've wanted support for, so in clean installs, these are fully supported, but what about upgrades? So at 10.8, all the individual components support a group managed service account. Enterprise Builder does not yet. So during an upgrade, if you previously configured the group managed service account, so say you manually did this through your services and changed all of your permissions for your run as, this is maintained. You cannot change to a managed service account during the upgrade, but if you have changed to it prior, we will save it, and so you will see something like this. You'll see your username, which shows your group managed service account. You'll see the managed service account checkbox checked, and everything will be grayed out, so you just click continue and we keep it. So let's talk through some things after you've upgraded. How do I know it was successful? So there's a few things you should really check. First, you want to log into your enterprise portal and confirm all of your servers validate. You're going to want to check your index status. Even if you're upgrading to 10.7 or beyond, where we do the reindex for you, it's still very good to go in and check and make sure that this is in sync. Otherwise, search operations might not work quite right. You want to check your TLS settings. These may need to be updated. Publish to your ArcGIS Enterprise portal, whether it's a shapefile or a CSV. Try publishing through the portal. You want to publish to ArcGIS Server. This could be through Server Manager, from ArcGIS Pro, or from ArcMap. If you have upgraded to 10.7 or higher, you may need to reassign members of your portal to a valid user type. So this might be where they landed in the standard temporary or light temporary user types. Just make sure you switch them to a valid user type. So we'll go over a couple quick things with Enterprise Builder. So Enterprise Builder was first introduced at 10.5.1 as a quick way to deploy a base deployment of ArcGIS Enterprise on a single machine. This means that upgrades were first supported with Builder at 10.6. The caveat to this is that only a deployment initially set up with the Enterprise Builder can be upgraded using the Enterprise Builder. During the upgrade, it will upgrade your portal, your hosting server, the data store. It will reconfigure the web adapters. If you're upgrading Builder from, say, 10.7.1 to 10.8, it will also do web styles. It also has the upgrade-based deployment utility, so you can upgrade silently using this if you would like to. So now I'm going to pass it over to Cameron to show a demo video. We can't really live demo upgrades, so he will go through a video of this.
Thanks, Nicole. So let's go ahead and take a look at Let's go ahead and take a look at the world's fastest upgrade of an all-in-one ArcGIS Enterprise on a Windows machine. So the very first thing we're going to do is, download our setups, our authorization files to the machine, create a backup. All that has already been done. And so what we'll want to do is run on our portal setup. And this one we're going to be upgrading from 10.7.1 to 10.8. And so when you run your setup.exe for portal, you'll be presented with this welcome screen. You go and click next. And your agreement, you can go and read through that and accept. Just letting you know the install directory, next. And here's where you can enter your portal for ArcGIS run as service account password. And then here you can either export this as an XML file to use later down the road. However, for this demonstration, we're just going to not export it and click next. And we're ready to install. So during this period, your portal will be unavailable. The service may stop and start a couple of times as it's uninstalling the previous version and installing the latest version. And then once it's finished, click Finish, and it should bring up a web browser to continue the upgrade, where we will browse to our JSON authorization file. So we'll go and choose File, and this is the JSON we created from my Esri. Go and click one-click Continue Portal Upgrade. And once this is complete, you should be presented with this Upgrade Complete message, letting you know that your portal has upgraded, and some next steps, which would be to upgrade your portal web adapter and the post-upgrade operation. And so you can go ahead and click OK. And then it will show next steps again. And this is where we're going to uninstall the portal web adapter. Take note of the context name, which in this case is portal. We'll go ahead and uninstall and remove. Next, remove. And then this is, when this finishes here, we can close it out, and we'll want to run our 10.8 web adapter setup.exe. We'll go ahead and click Next, our agreement, and then We'll choose the port that we install the web adapter on, which will be 443. We'll name it Portal, which was the previous name, and it will start installing the Portal setup. Once that's finished, a web browser will launch and present you with the configuration page. And you have a few options here, but we're going to select Portal for ArcGIS. And then when we click Next, we're going to enter the host name of our machine that Portal is on, along with the administrator username and password. And once the configuration is complete, you will be presented with a link there at the bottom, letting you know that it has completed. At this point, you could click the link to validate that it was successfully registered. However, for this demonstration, we'll go ahead and just close it for now and come back to that and proceed with the next step, which will be upgrading our web styles from 10.71 to 10.8. And it's a fairly quick setup exe here. This may restart your portal. Go ahead and click Finish. And then the next step after your portal has finished, we're going to want to upgrade our ArcGIS server. So we run the setup for server. And this is going to be very similar experience as the portal setup. Our agreement, just the install directory, and the Python install directory are run as username and password for the ArcGIS server service account. And then install. And once this completes, a web browser will launch. We'll need to authorize ArcGIS server. So we're going to browse to our ArcGIS server license file that we obtained from Esri. And once ArcGIS server is authorized, it will then launch a web browser to continue the upgrade. And so it will bring you to the ArcGIS server manager endpoint. And we'll click Continue Server Upgrade. Once this is finished, you'll be presented with this screen. You may not be able to sign in, though, because we need to complete the server upgrade by upgrading the web adapter since it's federated. So go ahead and close that out for now and go to our program features and uninstall the 10.7.1 server web adapter. Make note of the context, which is, in this case, named server. And remove. And then now that the web adapter is uninstalled, we can install the 10.8 web adapter running the setup.exe, which is going to be the same as the portal one. We'll select, accept the agreement, the port, and then we'll name our web adapter what it was named previously. And once this is finished, it will launch the web browser, take you to the ArcGIS server web adapter configuration page. And you have a few options here once again, but for this we're going to choose GIS image or geoanalytics server. Click Next. And once that's done, you enter your ArcGIS server host name with your username and password and configure. You'll be presented with the link there at the bottom that you can click to validate that the web adapter is configured, and we'll do that at a later time. So we'll go ahead and close that out. Now we're ready to upgrade the ArcGIS Datastore. So we'll run the setup.exe. And this is going to be the same experience as the previous setups. Go ahead and enter our password for the run as account that runs Datastore service. And we'll export as a file and install. And once this finishes, the web browser will be launched, taking you to the ArcGIS Datastore configuration page. The Datastore it doesn't have a one-click. We'll have to enter in a couple of parameters here. And so we'll enter the ArcGIS server URL along with the username and password. And when you click Next, it's going to do a prerequisite check to make sure it's ready for an upgrade. And then it will let you know which stores will be upgraded. And so in this case, we will be upgrading the relational and tile cache. And we'll click Next. And then once it completes, it'll take you to a status page showing you that it succeeded for both of the relational and tile cache stores. And at this point, we're ready for some validation checks to make sure that the upgrade completed. And so we'll go to our portal home and log in. And once we log in, you may be presented with this message: the post-upgrade operation is required. This may happen the first time you log in with an administrator account after portal has been upgraded. It's just letting you know that if you haven't already done so, upgrade your hosting server and your data store, but we've already done that, so we'll go ahead and click OK. And once that's complete, I like to kind of go into the settings and just validate that the federation succeeds, and that's under servers, and it will validate. Once you see that green check mark there, that means that your hosting server is validated. And at this point, you could also do a few other things. You can create a fresh backup and publish some items to make sure that succeeds. And then you could also proceed with upgrading your other federated server roles, such as geoanalytics, image, geoevent. Thank you.